Today, we are talking about how to mix vocals perfectly over a 2-track beat. I am going to show you how to take a song from this.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him.
To this.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a f, they watching.
This will be a 2-part series, and this particular video will address the vocal chapter of the series. Then next, we'll address what we do to the 2-track beat. We will go through this step by step, my friends. Now let's get into it. Step number 1 is gain staging. As you can see with clip gain, I've turned everything down. You see right here, this is negative 10 dB. On these vocals, negative 2.5. I select everything, all of the vocals, and I'll turn everything down with clip gain, hold shift control, and scroll with my scroll wheel up and down, and I'll have the entire song playing while I have my mix bus fader up. So going to my mix bus, I don't want to be hitting no more than 6 dB. So if I start at this hook right here, we'll see where the level is hitting at.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him.
I like that range personally because that gives me more than enough headroom for me to never have to worry about clipping in my DAW. Step number 2, overall volume balancing. This is where you can first assess the potential pockets that the vocal will be able to fit in this 2-track. Ask yourself, is it in the middle, in the center of the beat? Is it on top of the beat? Is it right next to the clap or the snare or somewhere else? And then I'll adjust the levels literally with just clip gain. I'll select the beat, I'll turn the beat up and down with the lead vocal playing, and I'll turn all the vocals together up and down with the music playing and quickly do a balance with clip gain. So let me demonstrate.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a f, they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but this a long ride. I done seen some crazy shit, now I got dark eyes.
So I would balance it to something like that, and then I would check and make sure that my gain structure is still the same.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom.
In this case, I'm a little over 6 dB, so I would just select everything and turn everything back down to negative 6 dB so I can maintain my gain structure before I start doing anything.
Young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they...
So now that we've got some general balancing out the way, we go to step number 3, if it's applicable for your song, but it's tuning. In this case, it's just some auto-tune. I'm using auto-tune effects. Whatever tuning plugin you want to use, or if you want to use Melodyne, this is the perfect time to do it. So I'll just start at this hook, and I'll listen to the vocal, and I'll apply some tuning. We could just A-B this real quick.
You know we young niggas, we came up from the bottom. And that's my nigga, so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give.
It's not too auto-tune sounding, but just a nice little guide. Also, pro tip, remember to turn off low latency in the settings in auto-tune. It's kind of similar to the sound of if you use oversampling on a plugin. That's the best way for me to describe what it sounds like. Now we are at step number 4. Now this is one of the most important steps in this entire process. This is volume automation. You are working with the 2-track, so you don't have as much flexibility on the pocket that you can create and find. So it's a lot easier if you dial in that pocket by using volume automation on the lead vocal. I've gone through and I've done rides on the vocal to dial in the performance. What I'm doing here is not trying to take all the life away from the vocal. I'm actually breathing more life, more emotion. This is an opportunity to get extremely familiar with the vocal, but also get familiar with that pocket and the range of the pocket in this 2-track, on the place where you can level and you can really create a dynamic performance in relation to this 2-track. I really try to find that zone in the 2-track beat, or wherever it is on top of the snare and the clap in the beat, right on top of the kick or something like that. And I try to find that zone and automate within that zone. And sometimes it's okay to color outside the lines a little bit and go a little bit outside of that zone for an emotional effect, or even duck a word a little bit so you lean in, and it makes the performance feel a little more inviting. You know, everything doesn't always have to be on top and in your face. It's for the aesthetic of the song. Also, if I zoom in here, I'm doing some of my de-essing here as well. I'll adjust any transients. Right here we have,
he kept on flexing.
a k, so I'm turning that up instead of
He kept on flexing on the ground. He kept on flexing on.
just subtly to give me a little bit more energy and to really just dial in that aggression, that personality of his performance. Step number 5, vocal process. Now we are going to get into processing the vocal a little bit, throwing on some EQ, compression, all of that. But before we bring up any plugin, you need to know exactly what you want the vocal to sound like. I think of it like this. You know how we A-B from an unprocessed vocal to a processed vocal? We should be A-B-C'ing the vocals. What that means is A should be the unprocessed vocal. No EQ, no compression, etc. on the vocal at all. B should be in your brain. You hear that finished vocal sound in your brain. C should be when you unbypass that plugin, you should be hearing what you heard in your head. If what's coming out the speakers is not what you hear in your head, you have some work to do. That's the idea when I approach anything in mixing. If I don't know how I want things to sound yet, I sit back and I listen to the song and I figure out what destination I want to end up at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the order of which I would have put these plugins on so y'all can see how the thinking process works. I also like to mix vocals in solo first. I find that allows me to get extremely familiar with the vocal, and then I can move everything else out the way so that the vocal can be in the pocket that I need it to be. So if we listen to this vocal,
You know we on it. We came out from the bottom, and that's my. So you know I really got him.
it's very dark. It's very, there's a lot going on right there. I love using the Pool Tech as my first broad tonal shaping. 2 main reasons I like using analog emulation plugins. The first, yes, for some character, some saturation, but 2, it's really for the workflow of these plugins. You can't get too bogged down in the details and making super fine tight cues and having 30 EQ points on your vocal. You got to do the best you can with this and that tonal broad shaping first, and then I can get detailed as need be. And oftentimes I find I don't need to do all of these super crazy detailed things. I just need some overall tonal balancing. We'll A-B that. I'm attenuating some 60, but boosting a little bit back just to show you what this EQ curve looks like. This is what I'm doing with this EQ. It looks pretty extreme. I also like using these EQs because it makes me use my ears. I'm not getting any visual feedback, and that's not informing what I'm hearing. I'm just listening to the vocal and I'm turning the knobs and doing what sounds good, what feels good. And that makes me focus on what's coming out the speakers instead of what I'm seeing on the screen. Let's A-B it on the vocal.
You know we on it. We came out from the bottom, and that's my. So you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
Huge change already off rip. Totally tilted and shifted the tonal balance of that vocal. And then I added some compression with the Puig Child.
You know we on it. We came out from the bottom, and that's my. So you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
I'm giving it a little more forwardness. I'm making the transients of the vocal give me a little more aggression. And I'm also getting a little tonal shift because I'm turning down the tonal part of this vocal a little bit. That gives me the impression of the transient part of the vocal being a little louder. It's similar to the effect of EQ. I also, again, like the color and the saturation, the character of this plugin. And then I'm using the Puig Tech MEQ because I really love this dip right here. And I'll show y'all what this curve looks like. So very, 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 very subtle. A little roll off on the top is happening, and there's this subtle dip and subtle boost down here on the low end. Boosted a little bit at 200, but I've also cut at 200, and it's just the sound of this plugin. You see there's a little dip right here, so if I turn this down, you see this is what the dip was, and then if I bring that back up, it's making this little interesting shape right here. Let me exaggerate this so y'all can kind of see what's happening. I'm basically doing something like this, but on a much smaller scale. Again, this is another situation where I'm just turning the knobs and I'm doing what sounds right and feels good. I'm using this on this vocal just to clean up a little bit of those low mids right there because the balance still wasn't where I quite wanted it to be. So I'll A-B that.
You know we on it. We came out from the bottom, and that's my. So you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money.
And then we got Pro Q4. All I'm doing on here, I'm just using the dynamic EQ on the shelf just to really tame that low end because it was a lot of woofiness going on. Y'all could hear before I even started putting any plugins on, it was a lot going on down there. So I needed to tame that stuff down there and keep it parked a little bit better. So we'll A-B that.
You know we on it. We came out from the bottom, and that's my. So you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but it's a long ride.
I like using dynamic EQs when you hear that frequency there sometimes, but not all the time. And that dynamic EQ can ride the compression on that frequency for me. So I don't have to EQ all of the body away from the vocal for the entire thing. I can just dynamically do it. So when it's a little too much, the dynamic EQ pulls it back. Then from there, I'm using the SSL 4000G emulation, doing some EQ. I'll show you what that EQ curve looks like. So this is what this EQ curve looks like. Can't cap, kind of wild. Didn't even notice what this looks like. But again, this is why I love these plugins, because you can totally shape a vocal and you're not thinking about what it looks like. If I was doing this on a digital EQ, I'd be like, well, maybe I'm doing a little bit too much. But this is what sounded good. We'll A/B that on the vocal.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but this.
So now I have my overall vocal tone of where I want to go. We've really shaped the vocal into something that sounds like it would be on a record now. Instead of a woolly, woofy thing with so much blown up low end and low mids, we've got our tonal balance the way we want it. From there, I would go to step 6. This is where I start bringing my effects in, my delays and reverbs. So here I have 2 sends, my lead vocal delay, my lead vocal reverb, and I'll just start with a doubler. I'm just using micro shift. These are the settings on the micro shift. I'll play that for y'all real quick. We'll mute these other ones.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
Blended in ever so slightly, just giving me a little bit of subtle space and reflections and width on this vocal so it doesn't sound too dead straight in the middle. That's just not the sound that I'm going for this song. Before the micro shift, a little high pass and low pass, a little overall EQ of it, RVox to compress it a little bit.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom.
Then I'm using the imager just to spread it out just a little bit more. From there, I'm adding a stereo delay with the Echo Boy on a half note, and these are the settings.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on
nothing too crazy. On the delay, we've done some interesting things. So I've added RC20 on this delay because I wanted it to kind of break up and sound a little weird. So if I play this delay, if you really listen, it's kind of like jumping around in volume. It sounds a little bit broken. And I've added some wobble and some distortion on it with RC20 as well. We've done some filtering in RC20 and I've adjusted the tone a little bit. I've used RC20 to creatively manipulate this delay.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on.
I just wanted to make it dark and a little grungy and a little broken sounding. And then I've put a little air chorus on it. I've sidechain compressed it to the lead vocal.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom.
So when that lead vocal is playing, it's tucked a little bit, and then when the lead vocal stops, it just blooms up a little bit and it kind of ebbs and flows with the performance of the vocal. Then we've EQ'd that delay a little bit even more. Then we've compressed it with RVox.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom.
As y'all can see, I'm using Pro Q4 and RVox a lot at the end of my chain just to really control and shape that sound of the vocal effects so that I can fit it in the 2-track, but it also is not distracting and combating with too many frequencies of the lead vocal. And also before we're doing a little high pass and low pass. Then we have our first reverb.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
So this was a little bit of a creative approach that I took with this reverb. I wanted to be a kind of mono reverb, and I wanted it to just have some movement and sound interesting. So what I did is I used stock mod delay from Pro Tools.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
So I created this little slap delay, and then I added the reverb to add a little bit of that room sound on the slap delay.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
And then I added the lo-fi to give it some character, some saturation.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
And here's where the sauce comes in. So I'm using the Hawk Phaser from Safari Pedals. And let me show you what this plugin is doing. This is where the uniqueness comes in for this reverb sound. So this is what the Hawk Phaser is doing to the EQ of this reverb. And it just gives me an interesting sound. And I really like the movement and the flavor of it. So it allows that reverb to ebb and flow and sometimes pop out in the mix and then sync back. So I love doing things like this on effects to give them some movement. We'll A/B that on the reverb real quick.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
It makes it sound a little more real. And it also makes it sound a little more like crappy in a way. I'm already using deverb. It's crappy enough, right? But I'm making it sound a little more crappy, a little more like weird and strange, but also that's real because a lot of times in real life when we hear reverb in a space, it doesn't sound super pretty and pristine. It sounds a little messed up and like a strange EQ kind of thing going on. So I like that effect and that feeling with adding the Hawk phaser to the reverb. Then from there, I felt it was a little too mono, so I added the air chorus to give myself a little bit of stereo information on it and a little bit of modulation as well.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him.
So I'm using that for, and of course I'm doing some sidechain compression on that reverb.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know.
Ever so subtly, and then overall shaping that reverb. What I'm doing with these effects is, yes, I'm moving frequencies out of the way so that the vocal is still heard, but that reverb is still heard. I'm trying to find frequencies that the reverb can shine and the lead vocal can shine. And I'm trying to remove all of the frequencies from the reverb that I don't need. And then RVox for a little bit of compression at the end, just to keep it part where I want it to be.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom.
As I was mixing, the sibilance was becoming a little too splashy with this reverb, so I added a de-esser before just to control that splash, just to tame it a little bit, and then a little bit of filtering before. Then the final reverb. Another thing with reverbs, outside of just creating a space and a feeling and emotion, you can kind of EQ with reverbs. So I'm adding a little bit of darkness, texture, and body to this vocal with a reverb. If I just A-B that real quick just to show y'all.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
I'm kind of standing that vocal up a little bit more and just giving it a little more presence and fullness. So I'm just using R-verb here. I'm really being attentive to my early reflections and how these early reflections position the vocal in the mix. So I always play with the early reflections here, and especially in a 2-track beat, try to find where the early reflections allow that vocal to sit as far as front to back in relation to the 2-track. Similar with the pre-delay, got myself a little pre-delay on there. And then again, another Safari Pedals plugin. I'm using the yak delay. Let me show y'all what that's doing. So we'll take everything off and we'll just listen to the R-verb first.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
So that's what we're using on the R-verb. It's the chamber setting. And then let's see what yak delay is doing.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
I'm getting some drive from this, but I'm also getting some interesting EQ from this plugin. Let me show y'all what EQ this plugin is doing. So this is very interesting, very weird. This is, again, what I like to do. Weird, interesting stuff that nobody else is gonna do. I really like these Safari Pedals plugins because they're so strange and interesting and creative, but they sound great. And they just are very unique and easy and simple to use. So I'm getting this strange EQ that I just liked, and I'm putting that on this reverb sound. To me, for some reason, when I put a strange sounding EQ on a reverb, it feels a little more real. And I really wanted the low end frequencies anyway, so I'm okay with doing some weird stuff to those upper frequencies. Then again, I'm doing a little bit of side chaining to the vocal, some overall EQ. Didn't go too crazy on this one, just a high pass and low pass, and then RVox just to compress it a little bit.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom.
And then I'm using the imager very subtly as well, the S1 imager, just to give me a little bit of width on it. I really wanted to just subtly envelop the vocal. Then a little bit of a high pass before all of those things. So we'll A-B before and we'll bring this reverb in and we'll see kind of how it just is a nice lift on the outside of the speakers and really filling out the total reverb sound.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
Lastly, for the effects, I added a little bit of reverb to this stereo delay. Basically, this stereo delay is being sent to both of these reverbs as well, just to give that delay a little bit of this reverb and kind of blend it all together a little better. Now we are at step 7. This is where I'll do a little bit more vocal processing. I'll start adding in parallel chains. I'll do some bus processing. I'll start bringing the 2-track in and getting my balance and my EQ and getting my relationship with the 2-track and the lead vocal together. But let's start with these parallel chains.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really.
So this right here is just a parallel chain I'm using to create a little more brightness, a little more presence in the top end and the upper mids of his vocal. So we'll A-B that real quick and then we'll go through it.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
So as you can hear, that brightness, that presence really shining through. So all I'm doing is using the SPL vitalizer, drove it up on the processing, the intensity a little bit. I've just adjusted things to my liking, a little bit of drive on it. Then I'm compressing a little bit with the Fairchild.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
Some compression right there. And then I'm using the EQP1A and I'm boosting up 12K. I'm attenuating a little bit and then I'm also cutting and boosting a little bit of the low end. So let's see what that EQ curve looks like. I just felt inspired and creative to do this. And this is just what I liked and what sound I was hearing. Now, this bites me in the butt at some point in this mix and you'll start seeing exactly why. But I really liked what this was doing, but it did come with some negative side effects that I had to combat. And the pool tech, and then I'm just EQing that overall parallel sound. And it was getting a little bright and buzzy and sizzly up here and SE, so I'm dipping a little bit here, but I'm also using the fab filter as a de-esser as well in parallel. And I'm using linear phase, but honestly, I just flip and see which one sounds the best because sometimes natural phase sounds better than linear phase. Sometimes I want a little bit of the cloudiness of it being in natural phase or zero latency, but sometimes I want that direct and conciseness of being in linear phase, so I just pick which one I like the best.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's
So that's what's going on there. Then I did add a little bit of the delay and a little bit of the reverb on this just to soften it a little bit and help that blend more with the lead vocal. Then after that, this is something that I love to do a lot of times on vocals, but I'll just do a parallel CLA vocals. Parallel just has a sound to me. So I'll just try these out and see which one I like the best. In this case, I like the spank at this setting, and then I had turned down the sub a little bit, and then I'm just blending that with the lead vocal. Let's A-B that.
you know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
I just like the sound of it and how it feels. And it helps me get a little more consistency as well sometimes. From there, I'll come with a high pass. A lot of times people start off with high pass in the vocal, but I find that I can really control my low end and get a warmer tone better if I just address those lower tones with a shelf or a bell first before I use a high pass to totally cut that energy out of the vocal. And then in this case, I've only high passed to 78. So that allows me to have that body still be in the vocal and not have it sound too thin. There was a lot of harshness coming out in this vocal because of the parallel vitalizer stuff that I did. So this is where it began to bite me in the butt and I had to address that. So we'll A-B this real quick.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watch.
You can even hear that resonance up there go away. So this is where I like to start getting detailed and do subtle, precise moves with these EQs. This harshness up here and these resonance up here that I had created with the vitalizer was biting me in the butt. I had to battle it. But I loved how the top end was sounding, so I just was like, I'm gonna figure it out. So I'll A-B this real quick.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but
I'll let y'all hear these frequencies real quick.
you know we on. You know I really got him. He kept on don't give a
Now from there, let's go to the vocal bus. So in this case, I probably threw the CLA 76 on next because I wanted a little more compression sound because of the style of music that it is. So we'll A-B that.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home.
This has a certain presence and a certain color to it that is so complementary to certain vocals sometimes. And I really just heard this sound for this vocal in this case. And then from there, we're doing a little bit of EQ with this plugin. I'm doing very subtle stuff on the bus. I shouldn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting on my entire bus. This is just enhancer type stuff. This is enhancer and sweetening type things. So we'll A-B that.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
It's interesting how these subtle moves really dial it in to the sound that I hear. It sounds so much more real, so much more palatable with these subtle changes. And then from there, I probably was still hearing some harshness, so I went to the soothe. And yes, as you can see, I'm really trying to get this harshness out right here. But I remember while I was mixing this song, I had this mix percentage up higher, but it was taking something away. And I was like, man, I'm just gonna have to dig in again manually because it's taking a little bit of the life and the flavor away of this performance. So I could only get up to 5% to where I felt it wasn't compromising the feeling and the emotion of the vocal as much.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching.
All I'm trying to do with this plugin is just ease that edginess and that bitiness of this vocal just a little bit, and then I come with the Pro Q4, and yet again, I'm battling it up here.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but it's a long ride.
And you see how that kind of warms the vocal up a little bit more. It's so interesting with frequencies, how if the vocal is dark, instead of boosting a lot of top end, you could just turn down that low end that's distracting you from hearing the top end, and the top end reveals itself to you. It's a much easier approach to me. So in this case, ooh, too much brightness going on in this vocal. Let me turn that down. Let me relax that harshness. I hear and feel a little more body, a little fullness. It feels a little easier to the ear now. And then lastly on this vocal bus, I'm using the black box because I just wanted a little bit of overall just subtle hype on this vocal. I love using the black box on things when I just want to give it a little bit of like hype and a little bit of energy.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but it's a long ride.
It really squeezes things too. I also forgot to talk about the S1 Imager. I'll use this sometimes just to spread all of the vocal effects out just a tad bit. 1.04 is all I use for this.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him.
It gives me a little bit more of a defined center for that lead vocal. So now I'll bring the 2-track in and I'll be adjusting my balance. For this mix, I actually had this 2-track. This is my 2-track beat right here. I had that at 4.7 and I had this at -1.4. That was the balance that I came to.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him.
I'll start turning that 2-track level down until that vocal pops up where I need it to be. And then what I'll do is I'll bring my cursor here and I'll mute and unmute those vocals so that when the vocal's muted, I listen to the 2-track and I say to myself, I want that lead vocal to pop up right here, right next to the snare or right in this pocket. And then I'll unmute the vocal. And if it pops up right there, we're good. If it doesn't, I mute the vocal and I adjust the 2-track beat. I'll turn it up or turn it down to where I hear that vocal is supposed to be. And then I'll unmute the vocal again and see if it pops up in the right spot. And I'll repeat that process until the vocal is exactly where I want it to be. So in this case, I'm just gonna turn it down and let's listen to how that lead vocal starts revealing itself and sitting in that pocket.
You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing on the gram, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying to find my way home, but it's a long ride.
For me, that lead vocal is like a little bit right on top of that snare, but right next to it as well. Now, once I have my balance with the lead vocal and the 2-track together, I'll come down here and I'll make a bunch of vocal effects, do vocal throws, and make the whole performance a little more interesting, a little more compelling. I've added these vocal throws right here underneath the vocal.
Front or bottom, and that's my so you know I really got him. He kept on flexing.
So this right here is in this kind of post section, and I just added this phasey, reverby thing going on underneath it.
Hard eyes, I know I should have told you. I know I should have told you that I just missed the old you. I know I should have told you. I know I should have told you. I know I should have told you.
Just to give that section a little different dynamic. Then we have a little reverb throws right here.
They can't f with us, all I know is run it up. He got hit up in his that's cause he keep playing tough. I'm tired of the struggle.
Stuff like that. Then we have another delay right here. And then we have this reverb situation that I created right here. One of them is panning left and right. It's a delay that I reversed and pan left and right, and then I just did a reverse reverb, and that goes into this final hook. Also, there is this delay that I automated right here with Echo Boy because of the way the verse finished off. It was empty and I just wanted to create a moment. So we'll play to the end of the verse into this last hook.
No, I should have told you I set the world on fire. You know we on it, we came out from the bottom, and that's my...
Just creating moments, you know, creating vibes and feeling to the song, some interest. So that's all that happened right there. Vocal effects are nothing crazy. You just have fun, do your thing. If y'all want a vocal effects tutorial, let me know and I got y'all. But there are no rules to that. So now we are almost to the finish line. We are on step 8. This is the revisiting and adjusting phase. I'll always be going back and adjusting my compressor to get it exactly the way I want it. Adjusting the EQ, the levels of the effects, the reverbs, just subtle things to get the sound exactly the way that I hear it in my head. Whatever I need to do and really fine tune. I like to do that oftentimes instead of adding another EQ because I find that I'm pretty much there. I just need to fine tune my move a little bit better. Maybe I just need to compress a little bit more or compress a little bit less. Or maybe I need to adjust my attack and my release just a little bit. That's what the phase is for. It's the final small tweaks that give you that extra 5-10%. Once all of that is good, this is the final step. And then we have a bonus step if you stuck to the end. Step number 9 is your final vocal rides. So this is where I go through and I'll do any final volume automation rides. This is how you really get that vocal to sit perfectly in the mix. I'm listening with the 2-track and I'm going through and I'm doing my final little rides right here on the overall hook bust. And so this word was just a little bit too loud still. You can see this word is very loud, but right here I turned it down some, but I turned it down to where it emotionally felt right. But according to my ear, I'm hearing it at this moment and I'm thinking, oh, I need to turn this word down a little bit more. So I'm turning it down just a little bit more here, but I still want that bloom of the word. I don't want it to be completely linear, but I just want to bring it back a little bit, you know? So instead of adding another compressor to maybe control these few words right here, now I'm totally changing the tone, the shape, the feeling, the emotion of my vocal that I've dialed into perfection. All I gotta do is spend a little extra time and do volume automation and I'll get the result that I want. Now at that point, you should be good to go to the next video. The next video, we're gonna talk about how you mix the 2-track beat. But this is a bonus step. Step number 10, reference the rough mix or mixes out in the world that you like or think are similar to what you're mixing. Or maybe you have certain elements of a mix that you wanna draw inspiration from. I personally A/B with the rough mix while I'm mixing often, just have my reference right here and I'll just hit Shift-I to A/B it.
You know we young niggas, we came out from the bottom, and that's my so I really got him. He kept on flexing on the ground, that's why they robbed him. He be posting money, he don't give a they watching. I'm trying my way home, but this a long ride. I done seen some crazy shit, now I got dark eyes.
So that's how I'll A/B the mix. I just go to Apple Music and I'll A/B the mix like that. I'll volume match myself and I'll A/B my mix and go back and forth. All right, guys, so that's the video. Let me know what video you want me to make next because I make these videos for y'all. If you want to buy any plugins that I used in this video, check the links in the description. And you know I can't end this video without shouting out the YouTube members. We got more live mixes coming to the YouTube membership. Specifically, this live mix is about to be uploaded to the YouTube membership and a whole lot more stuff coming there. We are at 11 still. The new goal is 25. We got Mixed by Jay, Loop Layers, Dominic Jackson, Gosetti, Kimoni Thomas, EBGZ and A Place to Be, Curtis Wilson, Thoughts, African Revolution, and Entre Music. Thank y'all so much for supporting the channel. I got a lot of stuff coming for the YouTube membership very soon. I'm definitely about to be uploading live mixes literally from start to finish on the YouTube membership so y'all can see the whole process. And I'm going to talk through everything and tell you why I'm doing what in the moment. And I think that's going to be some of the most valuable information because you'll see so many situations, and that's really what is going to level up your mixing ability and knowledge fast. You'll be able to learn from my perspective, but also my experience as well. Join the Discord. The Discord is linked in the description. If you're a YouTube member, we got a private channel in the Discord, and I'm looking forward to chopping it up with y'all, man. I appreciate y'all so much. If you're liking the vibe, like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next week.